Today I'm doing smoked pulled pork done right. Juicy, tender, packed with flavor. Fresh, crunchy slaw, crispy fried onion rings, all stacked on sweet rolls. This is how you build the perfect pulled pork sandwich. This package came with 2 pork butts, about 18 pounds total, but I'm only using one 9-pound pork butt today. The other 9 pounds I'm using for beer brats and breakfast sausage. The fat cap's a little scalped, but that's not a problem. We're going to keep the rest of the fat cap on because it's going to render down and keep everything juicy. I'm just cleaning up any loose pieces so it doesn't overcook in the smoker. I'm using Meat Church's The Gospel Rub. It gives the pulled pork an amazing flavor and a fantastic color. I'm going liberal with the rub. This is a big piece of meat and it can handle it. Make sure you hit every side. You can do this 15 minutes before you put it on the smoker, but I'm actually going to do it the night before. I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap and keep it in the fridge overnight. I'm planning to get this on the offset early in the morning, and I don't want any extra work to do then. In fact, I like to make sure everything is fully prepped the night before. I make sure I've got my charcoal, wood splits, and everything I need for the smoker ready to go so I can just light the fire and get rolling in the morning. I start this cook by filling a chimney with charcoal and getting it lit. 1 full chimney is usually enough to bring my offset up to temperature. I'm aiming for around 275 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's okay to run a little lower or a little higher. I just try to keep it above 250 degrees Fahrenheit since this is a long cook, usually 7 to 10 hours. Today, I'm getting started at 4 a.m. so I can finish at a decent time and actually enjoy the rest of my Saturday. I'll walk you through exactly what I'm doing and show you a backyard barbecue trick so you can get some of your Saturday back. Once the temperature stabilizes where I want it, I get the pork butt on the grates, fat side up, and set my probes. One for the internal temperature of the meat, and another to track the ambient temperature right at the grate level. I don't ever rely on the analog gauge on the lid, since it can be way off compared to what's actually happening where the meat is. From there, I work to maintain my temperatures and a clean, steady smoke. I'm using post oak for this cook, but hickory, pecan, cherry, or even a blend all work great. I like to keep my wood splits on top of the cooking chamber so they can dry out and preheat. I used to leave them right on top of the firebox, but sometimes they'd start to smolder up there, especially since this old backyard offset doesn't have a warming plate on the firebox to control the heat. Keeping them on top of the cooking chamber gives the wood gentler preheat, so they ignite faster and burn cleaner when I need them. After a couple of hours, I'll start spritzing with apple cider vinegar to keep the bark from drying out too much. From there, I check it about every hour and spritz as needed. I'll keep doing this until the internal temperature hits around 165 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, or the bark looks the way I want it, nice and set. Once I'm there, it's time to wrap it up in foil and push through the rest of the cook. Today, it took me 5 hours to get to this point. Before I wrap, I'm adding a little extra love. I'm using Meat Church's Honey Hog Hot. It's not too hot, but it adds an additional layer of flavor. Then, I'm going in with enough butter to block an artery and enough sugar to knock everyone's teeth out at the cookout. Then, I wrap it up tightly in aluminum foil. And here's the trick that lets you actually relax for a while. Once it's wrapped, I move it into the oven and maintain the 275 degree temperature. I leave the probes in and just let it ride. At this point, it's only 10 a.m. and all the hard work is done. Once the pork butt is wrapped, it's not taking on any more smoke. You just need a heat source. From that point on, it doesn't matter where you finish it. Oven, pellet smoker, or offset. All work the same. Now, make sure you never disclose this part. Just say you smoked it on your offset, took about 10 hours to cook, and a few hours to rest it, and you were up since 4 a.m. No one will ever question it. Now, if you like pork butts and you cannot lie, hit the like button and subscribe. And now for the coleslaw. In a large bowl, combine a 14-ounce bag of coleslaw mix, 4 ounces of mayonnaise, 1/4 cup of white sugar, 2 ounces of apple cider vinegar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/8 teaspoon of celery seed. Now, just toss everything until it's well incorporated. This is what we'll be topping our pulled pork sliders with. It cuts through the richness of the pulled pork and gives you that balance of creamy, tangy, and crunch in every bite. Then, we cover and refrigerate for 2 to 4 hours before serving to let the flavors melt. Once your pork butt hits around 200 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit internal, it may be done. But temperature alone isn't the final test. What you're really looking for is probe tenderness. When you slide your probe in, it should feel like a toothpick going into a soft cake. No resistance. That's when you know it's ready. Before I rest it, I like to preheat my cooler. Just pour in some hot water, close the lid, and let it sit for at least 10 to 15 minutes. You don't need much, just enough to warm up the walls. Then, dump the water out. Keep the pork butt wrapped and place it inside the cooler. Let it rest for at least an hour. You want the internal temperature to stay above 140 degrees Fahrenheit for food safety. So I leave my probes in and monitor it as it slowly comes down. I actually let this one rest for 3 hours, and it was still well over 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So we just pulled this out of the cooler. We had that in there for almost 3 hours. It stayed over 150. Bark looks amazing. Totally falling apart. Actually still pretty hot. So I just got some insulated gloves, but they don't come in until tomorrow. But be careful doing this at home. It's just at just over 150 and it's still pretty hot. And then we'll build this in a moment. At this point, I like to add in a little bit more of Meat Church's Honey Hog Hot. Just a nice little light dusting. So we just got this Fal Deep Fryer. Let's see how it works. It's set up to 350. And now we build. I like to use King Hawaiian rolls for my pulled pork sandwiches. And first, I like to put down the pulled pork, and then I like to add Meat Mitch's Whomp sauce. Trust me on this one. I usually like to put it in my own squeeze bottle for this. And then I like to add the coleslaw. And then top it off with the onion rings. This one's really good. Thanks so much for watching.